Now going kind of spinning off that and shifting to a different game. So then you guys are kind of okay with what's happened with New World. I know New World's been another big one that people have talked about in the recent past, right? Of they said, "Hey, we're ready to release a game. This is the game. Here's your beta preview." And then everyone got in and said, "Oh my god, it's buggy and we don't like it and it's not deep enough." And they said, "Okay, give us another year to work on it." Now that being good, I think everyone can agree that that's good. They're open to listening to feedback.
Maybe.
But I will say, yeah, maybe. But I'll say that this is sort of what excites me about Ashes as a product is they are coming in and saying, "We want your feedback today. We don't want to get 3 months
Yes.
from release and then have to push back a year because the game that we thought you would love, you don't actually love."
Well, and that's the interesting thing. When you were like, "So you guys are okay with what's happening with New World?" I'm like, "Well, wait a second. Which part?" Because yes, as
Yeah.
you said, I'm okay with them pushing back a product. Like, yeah, don't release that product. It's just gonna fail. You're gonna all the money you spent on it is gonna be wasted. You might as well spend a little more and take another risk at making another failed game. But anyway, I would say, yeah, I think it's better that they listened eventually, but like the reason it is such a shit show is because they listened to too much community feedback or the wrong community feedback. Did we talk about this last week? I forget where I was talking about it with, but the original idea behind New World was this mix of like a survival game, MMO that you like. Yeah, like it was definitely a mix of a survival and an MMO where you could build up towns and then go to war with other towns. It was a lot like Ashes, but more survival based, where you when you're out in the wilderness, you had to worry about like making a camp and resting and getting food and water and all that kind of stuff. That was my original understanding of what New World was. And it seems like they just like, I don't know, like as I said, like I did some of the alpha testing before that actual like public preview alpha test. And I was just like, wait, the, when I signed up for this alpha, I thought this was a completely different game. It was just coming out of left field. And from what I heard from some inside guys, like there's a bunch of like testers giving a bunch of feedback about how things they liked and didn't like. And it's like, I think it's really important to keep with design decisions, be a little flexible, but overall, you need to have an overall vision for the game and stick with it. When you just keep swapping back and forth, you're just like, I don't even know what's happening. At this point, I have no idea what's going to happen when New World releases. No idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny that you bring that whole thing up because that was literally the first thing that I thought of was, well, technically New World that we saw on preview wasn't even what the game was intended to be. And now what we're going to see New World on launch is going to be different from preview. So yes, listening to the community is good. But I 100% agree. And this is why I think people are sold on Steven within Intrepid, because it's not just Intrepid, right? Like, though, I mean, he created Intrepid based off of his vision. Um, Ashes specifically is Steven. Steven is Ashes. Ashes is Steven. Like, if Steven just knock on wood, something bad happens, he's, what just disappears off the face of the earth. Like, I'm concerned about Ashes because it is his vision. And not even from the monetary side of stuff or any of the other things that would be of a concern, but that the studio wouldn't have that lead vision there, which is what I think New World has lacked. They've had a good idea of a game that they want to have, but I've seen too much flip flopping for there to be
Yeah.
like a consistent vision.
I mean, I still think like a mixture of a survival and an MMO with a PvP focus would be huge. It's kind of like Rust in a fantasy setting, right? Like that would be super fun, especially if it's like even bigger than Rust in terms of like how many people you can get on a server. Because there's just so many things to think about. And like, yeah, it's not all about combat. Maybe it's just an attrition game where you're trying to chase someone down and keep them from, getting a rest and getting water and health and all that. Like, there's so many ways to make that super interesting and fun. And they just like, I still don't even know what they're going for right now in terms of gameplay.
Yeah, it's kind of a trend that we're seeing too. And I can think of Anthem. Anthem was another game that was really, really hyped, and then the hype fell off. I think
Hmm.
Outriders to some extent. And I think this kind of all comes back to that centralized point of getting your community in early, not just like these top 1% content creators who will absolutely white knight your game or destroy your game. Really getting your average player in very early to get in there, experience it, and see if your game is good or not. And you look at these larger game development studios, and I'm going to pick on the child in the room that can always be picked on, Blizzard, right? Blizzard literally stood on a stage and it said, instead of Diablo 4, which is what you all wanted, we're going to introduce Diablo Mobile. And then when someone was asked about, classic World of Warcraft servers, they said, you don't really want that. You think you do, but you don't. And Classic has been so beloved, and people have gone back and played through these things that they remember from their childhood or their young adulthood, that now, we're coming out on the other side and they've released a second expansion. Now we have Burning Crusade, the second expansion. People are reliving this. And I think that these game studios need to understand that on some level, these older game studios, you are selling nostalgia, and you also need to look at the fact that you are maybe a little bit out of touch with your community as to what your community is actually asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as an example within Blizzard that I think is good, and I'm not thrilled that he's gone, but Jeff from the Overwatch team
Oh,
is
my dad.
He had a good pulse on the community, the development
Mhm.
update videos that he had. He went on to streamers, which I actually found to be very curious that was happening around the same time that Steven was doing that for Ashes. So I don't know if he was like, if that was a tip of the hat, like, hey, good idea, I'm going to do this too, which is fine. Like, if you see something good working, like, replicate that. I mean, that's how companies learn. If you're stuck in your ways, Blizzard as a whole, then you don't actually get anything good out of it. So I think that like, there was a period of Overwatch when it first came out where everybody was excited for the game itself. And then it dipped down a little bit, and then you see Jeff come in, and especially like with the Overwatch League, and you see like this increased hype around it. Everybody's coming back to it. Oh, they're listening to us. Oh, Jeff said Brigitte's overtuned. Like, yeah, I agree with that. Like, and now with him gone, it's kind of like, who's that going to be? And the guy that they replaced him with is just kind of, they might need to get somebody else. Yeah.
It's tough. And Overwatch has always been a tough child. Like, I played a lot of very competitive, high level Overwatch back in my younger years when I was good at games like that. And the team at Blizzard was always very receptive to feedback, to the point that we would say, this looks bad. This comp, Goats comp, for anyone that remembers that, you would
loved it. I
yeah,
loved it.
I did too. Trust me. That was your Ryan, Zarya, and Diva with 3 healers, depending, Morio, Lucio, Zen, something like that. And they said, this is the best way. This is it. You've got, all these heroes, and literally none of the DPS heroes, the most popular heroes, are able to be played because of this. And then they said, okay, well then we're going to adjust and we're going to make a fix. Did that, they banned certain heroes. They forced a 2-2-2 comp. Do those things work out perfectly? No, but it shows that they are reacting, and that this product isn't just, hey, we've gotten the majority, we feel that we've gotten 80% of the money we're going to make off of Overwatch. We've gotten it off of Overwatch so far. Now it's time to move on to the next project. They're still iterating, and it's a live project, and it feels that way.